By hour 24, I was like, oh my god, this book's never gonna end. I actually have this book! There's voice too. Are you on the V.E. Schwab train? Where did all the time go? Hello everyone and welcome back to Grayson's Bookmark. Here on this channel I make all types of writing and bookish content, and today's video is a bookish one. I've been waiting to make this video for a very long time. Last fall, maybe even earlier than that, I had a random number generator decide the random order in which I would read a secret list of books. It was a fun video, I liked it. And today is the follow-up to that video, 8 months later. Episode 2 of the F.A.B series. That's favorite author books. Not my favorite author's books, obviously, like that wouldn't make any sense. They are my favorite author's favorite books. So they're recommendations, things that like define their style, and sometimes I'll throw in a little book that they themselves have written because who doesn't love more reading? And today's author, you know from the title, you know from the thumbnail, is Victoria Schwab. Or V.E. Schwab, as she properly goes by. Today's video is going to be a little unhinged because it took me so long to read these books. No, it was not me procrastinating. It was not me losing interest in these books. It was honestly just waiting on hold from the library to like let me read them. I did read these books in the TBR in the order that the random number generator assigned to me, and I think it was a good order. So if you don't remember from that video, or if you want to go watch that and then come back to this one, you can do that. But for the short version, the order I was meant to read these books in was The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab, Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, The Library of Mount Char by Scott Hawkins, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark, I'll check that one, Lab Girl by Hope Jarin, and Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. And I just finished Nevernight in May in the audiobook. It was really good. I'm gonna try not to make this too long, but like we're gonna have a little fun with this. We're gonna try to analyze Victoria Schwab's mindset, her taste, or her writing style, and see if there's any like connections there. I think it's really interesting. For the first video I did, it was John Green, and those books that he recommended were all sad but quietly hopeful, which I feel like is a lot of John Green books. I realize that I haven't read that many V.E. Schwab books, even though I really like this author. So, although technically not on her favorites list, I picked her first book so I could get a little more of her writing style and her vibe to prepare me for the rest of this reading list. And if you're wondering how I found these book recommendations, it was a combination of her own comments on Goodreads, some Instagram story posts, Oprah magazine interview. From those various sources, I curated my own list. Okay, let's move through these. Let's start with The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. I liked it. It had a fall autumnal vibe. It was very appropriate for the month that I started reading these books. It does have the my father's dead and I want to wear his old clothes and his old boots and do everything myself kind of trope. Like she prefers pants, but like this book's 10 years old. Like it wasn't as much of a used trope as it is now. I felt like the climax is a bit like cut short, but it still felt like a very full circle kind of story. I'm sorry I don't remember that much of the plot. It was like so long ago, but like it had really good vibes. This book was big on storytelling and like the things that get passed between generations. It's about public opinion and lies. It's kind of Wuthering Heights-ish. Got a similar vibe to the village of like Sir Sarth from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. If I'm messing up that name, I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've read it, but like it's got a similar vibe. And I thought that was so interesting because this book was written 10 years earlier, and I guess like there's echoes between her works, and that's really neat. It's definitely another V.E. Schwab book that I like and would recommend if you're into like fall witchy stuff. If you're not, like, where have you been? The audiobook I listened to also had the Ashbourne Boy short story at the end, which is kind of like a prequel. It was good too. It was a nice little addition to the end. Moving on, the next book was Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I have things to say about this book. First of all, I love this book, but I DNF'd it. So I used to have a tradition of listening to the Neverwhere audiobook like every year in high school, and I put it on this list as kind of like oh, lovely, I'll get to read it again. But I don't know, I just couldn't read it again. Like, I feel like I'm oversaturated with the story. I just wasn't ready to have the story again. It's really good, I would recommend it. The audiobook is read by Neil Gaiman himself. His voice is really good, astonishing, just so... I highly recommend the audiobook if you're gonna read it. It's about this guy named Richard and this girl, Dor, who is somewhat magical. She mysteriously falls into his life, like literally on the pavement, and Richard leaves his fiance, leaves his important like work dinner to like take care of her, and suddenly weird things start happening to him and he's like sucked into this world of London below. And it's kind of like Gregor the Overlander, but for adults. So yeah, I read it like 6 times and I didn't need to read it to 7. Next is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. This book took me 2 months to read. I didn't really like it that much, and that makes me feel bad because I know like N.K. Jemisin, like people like talk about her all the time, and she's like a renowned award-winning author. Most of the book's political stuff like literally drained out of my brain right after I read it. It was just a lot of political stuff and history. I mean, it had vibes, it had atmosphere. You could tell like the book had a long history before it. And from this book, I started to think that Schwab likes like dark, twisted lands with like really messed up characters. But it was a slow build into the end. The plot was about the main character being siphoned into the royal family and how she interacts with the gods there in the castle, and like the castle's like kind of in the sky but like not really. It was just a lot. There is a romance, but I thought this was gonna be like a fast-paced adventure, steal the crown, fight your brother kind of book, and that it just wasn't that kind of book. I'm glad I finished it. It's not my favorite though. Okay, next is The Library of Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. Now this book was dark. This book was messed up. This book was a surprise. I was not expecting to like it at all. Like I thought it was gonna be horror and like just I could not read it. But like I did. I got through it. I thought it was gonna be a horror book, but it's more like an unfolding of just like weirdness and twisted things. So like weird and twisted things happen, but like not in a way that put me off from it. And if you're going to read it, I feel like you should read it blind, because that's how I was told to go into this book. So if you're in the mood for a twisted journey, I would recommend this book. It's definitely got some magical realism happening in it. There is some content in it that may be disturbing to you, like child abuse, so if like that's not your deal, then maybe don't pick it up. Next is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and this book was a journey. It took forever for me to get this book from my library. I think I was on hold for like 3 months, and it was over 36 hours to read. If you had 21 days to read 36 hours, that's like not quite 2 hours a day, but it's what is it, like 1.7 hours a day? It's a lot. And I was like salty because I couldn't really speed up the book past 1.25 because the narrator is British and really hard to understand if you go any faster. There's a lot of set piecing in the beginning, like putting everything in its place, a lot of lore. And I didn't mind because I knew what I was getting myself into, but it was so long. Not a lot is happening in the beginning. Nothing momentous. It's just slowly things are like being just dropped into the story, and you're like, okay, so like when are things gonna happen? But it was a slow reveal, and that kind of reminds me of a Schwab book, how she sets up the chessboard before she puts the game in motion. I feel like it could have been 3 books, but there's really no place to split it up. And there's a lot of footnotes. In the beginning, I thought it was really cool and enriching, but by the 11th hour of the audiobook, I was like, okay, they're unskippable in an audiobook. There's just so much story. And I understand that this book was a labor of love, a lot of world building. So if you like want to get completely sucked into a book, this will be great for you. By hour 24, I was like, oh my God, this book's never gonna end. The ending did leave me a sense of closure. I was like, relaxed. Now I don't have to be in this story anymore. I didn't even tell you what it was about. It's about like how ways of magic come about in London, England, Britain. There grows 2 factions from Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and they have like a partnership, and then they don't anymore, and it's very old magic versus new magic and the various conflicts that, you know, arise from that. You didn't come to this channel for good plot summaries, did you? I hope you're here for the vibes, because that is all I have to speak about. Okay, next is my favorite book from this list. If you're gonna read any book from this video, it better be this one. Never has learning about trees been so interesting. It is Lab Girl by Char, and this book is amazing. Like, I don't understand. Like, why have I not been reading more nonfiction? What is going on? I was hooked by the first 5 minutes, and by the 20-minute mark, I was sure I was gonna give it 5 stars, and I did. Lab Girl, please read this book, and please get the audiobook. So the book is about this woman named Hope, and I'm sorry I don't remember the word for tree scientist, but she's a tree scientist. An arbologist? No, that's not right. But anyway, she studies trees and plants, and this book is about her journey to get a lab and funding and like all the things that happen in her career until she finally ends up in her own lab in Hawaii. A lot of crazy things happen, but she has her friend Bill at her side, who is very eclectic and likes digging holes. And you actually learn things from this book, but it's so entertaining that you don't even care and you want to learn. You learn what soil is made of and why eucalyptus trees smell the way they do, and like it's just let it wash over you. It's really good. Her writing is it was so decadent to hear. I recommend the audiobook as always. She has real emotion in some parts of the book, but not in a way that stalls the narrative. She doesn't get too choked up about it, but like it's emotional in like a very affecting way. You will learn more than you ever cared to know about trees, and you will love it. I don't have any Schwab analysis about this book, but I think she just really likes it, and I really like it, and I think that's cool. Last is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. Yes, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you for watching this far. So this book does something unexpected at the beginning, and it kind of confused me, but then once I realized, I was like magnetized to the story. Also read it in audiobook. I was expecting it to be like YA dark, but no, it's adult dark. I would check trigger warnings before you read this book if you have any triggering thing that you might need to be aware of. But like, it was really good. It was a slow burn, like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It also had footnotes, but I understand that the footnotes are actually in the back of the book. If you get it physically, when in the audiobook they were read in line, and I feel like they actually enriched the story in line instead of like the footnotes in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Like, I feel like there's a delicate balance, and Kristoff manages it better than Clark. Is someone gonna come at me for that? The footnotes in this book, when they're read, you know they're immediately gonna connect to something after them, and not just like, they're not there just to be there. Like, they will immediately affect what's going to be said next, and I really liked that predictability. Sometimes they're really short and they're just funny. I love the voice. I love Mia's personality. At one point, the author describes the character taking her own temper by the ear and scolding it. The way the author is personifying the character's own reactions to her emotions is just, I've never read anything like that before, and I was really into it. She is basically learning how to be a better assassin by joining this, like, I want to say coven. I don't remember if that's quite the right word. She goes into this like mountain, secret mountain with this boy, and they're both like learning how to be the best assassins, and they're called blades, I think. Only a few of them can become blades. I haven't read Six of Crows in a long time, but it gave me Six of Crows vibes. It's very set piecey as well, lots of elements rolling around in the beginning, like a V.E. Schwab book. I also gave this book 5 stars. And now I feel like this is the analysis portion. What did these books say about Victoria Schwab? Well, I think it's safe to say that me and V.E. Schwab share some similar tastes and some not similar tastes. I would say she reads diversely and broadly. She likes books that, to me, feel like resonate with her own works. They have like slow beginnings, lots of pieces moving around in the beginning, very like atmospheric or dark. There's twisted characters, weirdness, a little bit of magic, a little bit of like, the books have their own culture to it. It's very strong characters in all of these books, strong-willed. It has only like deepened my appreciation for V.E. Schwab even more. I am currently reading Gallant. I'm like so close to the end. And yeah, it's just like, I'm on the V.E. Schwab train. Are you on the V.E. Schwab train? let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I have no idea what author I would choose next for my next F.A.B video. Tell me about your favorite authors in the comments down below, or your favorite books, or if you have any recommendations, books or authors that you feel like I should check out. I will link the F.A.B series in the description of this video, along with some other things I feel like you might like. And yeah, I feel like that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!